Hello, I'm Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest YouTube video. Today I'm going to be sharing a flip through of my Hobonichi pages from February and talk a little bit more about some of my planning system. And the first thing I wanted to mention is I've changed the dashboards in the front of my journal, and I've been creating some seasonal mood boards to help inspire the colours and things that I'm working on. And this is something that I've just mentioned on Patreon and set as a creative challenge, and I just find it really helps to have that inspiration for your creative projects. So inside my Hobonichi at the front, I've still got this calendar for the year, and some things I schedule in advance and the rest I just fill in as I go. And then for my main monthly calendar, that's how it's looking for February. And anything that is kind of time sensitive or definitely going to happen that day, I put some lines around so that they stand out amongst the other things that I'm working on or doing on those particular days. It really helps to make sure that I focus in on those as I'm looking at the week ahead. And this is my list of everything that I'm hoping to get done throughout February, or on the 27th, on the day that I'm filming this. Across means it's done. Half across means I've started working on it, and anything that's empty I haven't done anything on at all yet. And I've set up ready for March as well, and all of these stickers are from my Patreon printables. So again, anything I know that's definitely happening in ink, and then other things I've just got penciled in at the moment. So then we move on to the weekly section. So if I get us back, so this is where we moved over from January into February, and I keep these pages really simple. So there is my task that I want to work on throughout the week. Then at the bottom, I've got my breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and exercise. And this has time ladders, which I use roughly. I certainly don't stick to them, but I do find it's kind of helpful just to have an overview of what I want to work on throughout the course of that day. And then after the weeklies, we get to the daily planning. So this is the beginning of February. Again, that came from my Patreon printables. And again, these always have a time ladder down the left, and these I do try and actually plan out in advance so that I just block out sections of time for doing different things. So course planning, I know I wanted 2 hours to spend on that, so I try and block that out in my schedule. And the decorations are a variety of things. They're from printables, and that's from a miso paper tape. And sometimes I do a little bit of watercolour, but yeah, the top's always my tasks for the day, and then in the evening I write a review on how the day's been or anything interesting that's happened. At the beginning of the day, they tend to be undecorated, so I can just focus on what needs to be done, and then the evening I kind of have that joy of adding stickers, washi tape, papers, anything I like. Anything big that's happened, I'll often letter out. So that's when I released the printable journal prompt cards, just so that when I'm flicking back through these pages, the key moments are there. And sometimes if I put paper or write in another direction, I just use the space as best that I can. And here's when I did a Patreon live stream in the evening. So it's always something I do every month. So I always like to document that in here as well. And they were some free little heart stickers I released on Patreon. And the washi tapes are London Gifties. Again, these are from miso paper. Weekends I tend to have slightly less on my to-do list, but not always. I'm often then doing things around the house or working on creative projects just for fun. And here I'd placed an order with Lucy Pritchard Design. She's got a lovely Etsy shop, and that was one of the stickers. So I just put in some of the packaging that came with that order. And I've used then quite a few of her stickers throughout the next few days. I don't treat myself to stickers and things nearly often enough actually, so it was lovely to have those in here. I do have long task lists, and that's something I'm just going to touch on in a moment. But they all stick to that same format really, and see sometimes the lists aren't too long, other times they're really long, and I just then use whatever space is available to me. So as you can see here for today, there's no decoration at all at the moment, just my list of tasks, and then I'll start adding the decorations. So there's a couple of other things I was going to share. In fact, I've got my March, or all I've done for March at the moment is just add my cover page and that calendar that I shared from before. When I've got really long task lists to work through, one of the things I do is I always have this little pad of paper on my desk, and I write down 3 or 5 things depending on if they're long or short tasks. I actually just took this out of the bin. I think it was one of my weekend ones. But I just look at those, pick out a few things, write them on here, draw a line under it, put that to this journal to one side, and just work through this. When I've done those, I will mark them off on this list and then pick perhaps another 3 things, mark them off and come back to here. That really helps me to stop feeling overwhelmed. So if I look at a list this long, I'm not quite sure where to start. Just picking a few things, having it on a separate piece of paper just does wonders for me. It really does. I don't then have to think, right, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? I just have that little list, and then once I've done those, I come back to it and pick the next few things. So if you have long lists like I do, or you find that you're procrastinating on things, I'd really recommend having a go with something like that and just tackling your day in kind of small portions. The other thing I mentioned on my last Hobonichi flip through video was that I'm using the Maker's Yearbook this year. And that's also really helpful in that with this, you set your goal for the week and then you set 3 tasks to do every day. And so those are my priorities for the day. So today, the first thing I wanted to do this morning was sort out some footage that I filmed yesterday for Patreon, then do some YouTube filming. And on Patreon, I'm announcing the theme and the creative challenge that we are going to be focusing on during March. They're my 3 main things. Then I will start looking at the other things that are on my list, and these have been working out really well. So priorities last week's working on my new course, releasing Patreon printables. It's just so helpful having that focus, and also has the big calendar there at the front as well. In the last video I shared a little bit more about the whole planning system at the front of this for 2024 and reviewing 2023. And also at the end of each month, something that I really like is that you have this end of month review with things like lessons learned, how many followers or email subscribers did I add, how much did I pay myself, profit after expenses, best-selling product. Really helpful for me to just focus in on the things that were important during that month. I really like that it's got a health and well-being section too. I was asked under my last video if I would be doing a full review on this planner. And yes, I think I will, but what I'd like to do is get 6 months through the year and see, then I think I'll be able to give a clearer picture on how much it's added to my planning system. So far, I'm loving it. I think if you have a creative business and you're feeling a little bit stuck, some of the questions it asks you at the beginning are really useful. They really get you thinking about your creative business and collaborations you might want to work on, different routes to market, those sorts of things. So far I'm loving it, but I think 6 months is a really nice kind of time frame for me to be able to see what it's done for me. Is it doing enough over the top of the Hobonichi for it to be worth it for me? I think so far, but I think 6 months would be a far better kind of toolkit to just check that I'm definitely still using it and still getting lots of benefit from it. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you've got any questions or comments, then please do just leave them down below. As always, I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined me over on Patreon. Well, thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you're doing really well, and I look forward to speaking with you really soon in my next video.